you'll be getting the beginning payment of the ECS grant, and you'll have something.
I thought the board would feel more comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, adding up those numbers, it looks like, you know, the outside tuition, the available 105 to 135,000, and what we may act on tonight, it looks like we'll still have to, you know, somehow deal with getting some additional dollars from the added ECS grant money. I mean, it won't, because if we're talking about a $640,000 total, that we'll definitely need. We'll need I think we'll need it all, as Mark just said. Yeah, we'll need it all. We'll need to at least, you know, have access to that later.
It's not going to come from one source.
Yeah,
it's going to come from a
definitely.
couple of them. Okay, any other questions? Any other comments? Any more discussions about moving this $74,000?
Just a comment. I'm just hoping that, I know we're on a new plan and all that, and that really we still can't really cost control so much as just know what, you know, what our situation really is with more certainty. So that's better. But in terms of budget planning, will it help? Will it really help? Because it seems like it's always a surprise, and it continues to be a surprise. And you know, is there, you know, will there be more certainty in that, in coming up with you know, proposed amounts for your health insurance budget on both, and all these all these areas, whether it's the town, Board of Education, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, there would be certainty, because the rates are published.
Right, okay.
And they can't go, well, they will change. Insurance goes
and
up.
they will go up, right.
But
It's an annual surprise, not a monthly surprise.
the variable, though, is a single guy getting married to maybe a woman with a child. So all of a sudden it becomes from
Family.
a $10,000 to
Yeah.
a $30,000 plan.
Right.
Yeah, those things are in the mix, but that's typical of the
Mhm.
population. And some will lose and some will gain. People will jump on the plans. Some people will take the initiative to come off and take the waiver. That's the only variable, is how many.
Mhm.
So when we're doing budgets, we're going to guess at how many, not how much.
Okay, yeah,
Before, we're doing how many and how much.
Mhm.
So we take one of those out.
okay,
Makes
Thank
sense.
goodness.
okay.
Thank goodness for all of us.
Mhm.
Okay,
And
thanks.
the annual year-to-year rate change.
Yeah,
And there'll be,
that's-
I think
that's
they
the
actually
other-
move quarterly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
they actually publish quarterly. Do you know that, Anna? That's what I heard in one of the descriptions that when we sat down with them. They published them.
It was my understanding that
It's annual?
we would have the same rate for the entire year. I do believe, and I have to go back and like review the contract, but there may be some language, well, I think that language actually, now that I think about it, has to do with if we decide to get out of the plan before a 3-year period, then there's charges they can charge us. That's what I was thinking of. Sorry for your confusion.
Okay.
I think Mariana maybe has a comment.
The quarterly rates are for those people that come in, like let's say someone decides to join the plan in November, it would be a different rate for them than it would be July 1st.
Okay,
So our
okay.
rate will be the same,
Locked in
but
for
they
the
do
entire
year. Okay, so it's a
publish
lock-in at
quarterly
least.
to account for people coming into the
Gotcha.
plan mid-year.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That's why it would be
Okay, 'cause that would be an
Otherwise you're locked
enormous
into an
number
annual
of
plan.
increases.
makes
Yeah, that
sense.
would seem to be prohibitive.
And they publish a year in advance, so we would know.
Thank you. Any other
Prohibited.
questions? Any other comments? Any other?
Motion.
Yeah, still maybe. Sorry. So do I hear a motion?
Move to authorize non-expended Board of Education encumbrances in the amount of $74,503.04 remaining from the fiscal year ended 6/30/2018 to the Health Insurance Fund.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? So moved, 5-0-0. Thank you. And last of the new business, ratify budget transfers within departments, $34,000.
You have a list of the budget items that we're asking you to transfer. Budget transfers, I should say. If there are any questions, Anna will answer. Oh, I might know one.
Does anybody have questions for Anna for the money that we're moving in the spreadsheet from here to there and everywhere? I wish that we weren't required to do this, but we are, so be it. Do we want to talk about miscellaneous supplies, $185? No, we don't. I didn't think there was anything on here that had any meat to it, so. Any other questions, comments, clarifications? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Motion to ratify departmental transfers in the amount of $34,144.81, processed for fiscal year end June 30th, 2019.
That's 26 instead of fiscal year.
Did I say fiscal?
Yes.
Fiscal.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other conversations on the motion before us? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so move 500. Thank you. That is it for new business. Reports, Board of Education.
Amy Drown, Assistant Superintendent. Jeff is on a well-deserved vacation. We are very happy for him. Mariana and I came tonight, obviously, to talk in regards to the van, but also Jeff wanted me to report that so far since June 1st, we have enrolled 26 new students to our district, 15 of those being at the elementary level. So we're keeping an eye on our class size and sort of where we are in regards to that. The other piece for us as well is that based on our discussion, our review of the audit as well, we hold an administrative retreat in August in which all of our administrators get together for 2 days and we sort of go over mandates. And one thing that we will be doing this year as part of our administrative retreat is a business office. We'll be running part of that to address some of the practices in regards to time cards, POs that were mentioned tonight. So Jeff just wanted me to circle back in regards to that. We are heavily in the process as well of doing our requisitions for the 1920 school year, and obviously we have a high level of purchasing over the summer as most of our teachers need the materials prior to the start of August 26th. So we're heavy in requisition and PO processing, if you will, for this fiscal year. And that's really where we are.
26 new students is a net.
26 right now since June 1st is what we've had, ones that are unanticipated to us.
26 is consistent with the previous projections?
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, this was a bubble that we were expecting to see. We had projected, I think it was 34 altogether over the course of the year. Most parents transition their kids over the summer. It's not uncommon for us to see an average of anywhere between 20 and 30 over the course of the summer. We also tend to have sometimes our last minute K parents who might be in denial that their kids go into K and finally decided to show up in the 9th hour. We do offer open enrollment too over the summer because we do online enrollment. So parents can register with us at any time over the course of the year, but they tend to come. This tends to be the busy time around July 15th. We'll notice it completely quiet. And then we'll notice those who decide to finalize a real estate move or whatever it may be, pick up usually on that August 20th mark again. We'll get usually a handful, about 5 families. So we're pretty on target with what we normally see. What's interesting is because of redistricting, we're noticing parents, we have certain parents are moving to different districted schools. Oh, God. So we're seeing moving within the town. So we are noticing that as well. So we are dealing with residency, verifying residency, because that's one of the things we're trying to be really public about is that just because you're moving in town, you still have to verify that you live where you live, and it's about where the child lays their head at night, verifies the school in which they go to. So we are also dealing with that. Those requests coming in. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I do have a question. I'm wondering if the IEP litigation has been settled?
So that is still ongoing. The So one portion of it has been paid. The other, there were 3 components. One component, the defendant is disputing, and then the other, the third component is still, again, there was a judgment, but then there was another, I'm not sure if I'm using I don't know if it was an appeal, but the judge has still not finalized his ruling on the attorney's fees is the component. So we are still waiting for that.
Okay.
But based on the preliminary, I do believe we have enough to cover the legal fees, based on that preliminary number that we got, with the money that we had been setting aside.
Great, so you won't need to dip into this excess ECS money
No,
that we received
no.
to come up with a final settlement for that?
Nope, and then that
Terrific.
third piece, again, is being litigated, so I'm not sure when that will settle.
Okay.
Hopefully it comes in under budget, not over, so we can offset some healthcare.
Yeah.
So I do have another question. I missed last month's meeting, and I was looking at the minutes, and it said that the Board of Ed would come up with a full list of reductions that were effective, taken because of the $250,000 reduction in the budget. So, did we receive that?
I think we
I-
emailed that to you.
Did you email? I have to go back then. I wasn't sure, so I just thought,
Sure.
let me double
Yeah,
check.
well, I believe
So,
Jeff was gonna email that to you, and
And
based
yeah,
on his
yeah,
notes that we
that
had,
was-
that should have been communicated to you prior to
Correct.
this meeting.
do you know offhand if the outdoor pursuits class was cut? Was that one of the cuts? No, it was
basketball.
not.
No.
That's
Okay,
now
just
the
middle school, after school, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, I'll go back, and if I can't find it,
Send me an email.
send you an email, okay,
Yeah, we'll
Anna,
get it
thank
to
you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. First Selectman.
Well, hi. Who would have known that redistricting would have been a boon to real estate agents who are moving people, and moving companies, I presume, moving people all around town so children can be positioned for the right classroom. We have a great town, don't we?
Doesn't sound cost effective.
And boy, as we know, our parents are passionate about education in this town. Well, we're off and running in a beach town here. We had Celebrate East Lyme come on the warmest day in a decade. So the good news is there was no rain. The bad news is it was very, very, very warm. A lot of people came down. We saw crowds build as the day came by, and many people came out for the Dominion fireworks. It was still a great day. Farmers market every Thursday, you know about that. I see some of you down there on Thursdays. Summer music on Wednesdays. We miss it when we're at Board of Finance meetings, but music on the beach on Wednesdays and up at the band shell on Fridays. Terrific hand-picked bands play at these places, and people come out and they just enjoy their time. The play that the East Lyme Theater Under the Shell starts this Friday up at the band shell, and they're going to play for a whole week, and a weekend they're going to skip next Friday. But check their dates out, and it's a great play. Rumors by I think Neil Simon. The other play. If I mention one and not the other, that's just bad. But the other one actually features me. The East Lyme Regional Theater is at the high school auditorium this weekend, Friday, Saturday at 7 o'clock, and Sunday at 2. And they have 3 performances. I am the book voice, so I've pre-recorded my lines. And when the lead character comes and reads his How to Succeed in Business book, it's doing my best Don Pardo, So there's been a big call for speed control all over town. We get this every year. Every year is the case. There was a fellow hit, a pedestrian. I don't know how he's doing. I did check in with the family a little while ago. He was on the mend. It was kind of a freak accident in that it was just in a blind spot, and he wasn't rammed into as much as he lost his balance, fell backwards, and hit his head.
Oh.
It's Charlie Fennick. We all know it was the person, it was the victim who was hit, and he's been a long time supporter in our town. He's on the Parks and Recs Commission, and I think he was a softball coach and led our girls to their maybe the only World Series appearance in this town. Charlie's a great guy, big walker. And he was hit on the side of the road as someone was pulling out of their driveway apron. So it wasn't a speed issue, and it wasn't a, traveling too fast for conditions issue. It was just blind spot issue, and there were witnesses, and these kind of things happen. Could happen on any street in any town. But we did have we have had residents, Pine Grove. Other beach communities in Riverview the other day. We're talking about speed control. Our police have stepped up patrols, and our chief would tell you that they're running as many speed control traffic patrols as possible to check for red lights and stop signs, but also speeding in our town. And I think they've made about 500 stops since Memorial Day. But they are straight out, so they're doing the best they can. And the chief's putting on some extra people this time of year just to try to catch up with that. Our citizens are screaming for more police presence, and we're doing the best that we can. Tonight, the Board of Selectmen ratified, before your meeting, we met in a special meeting, just to ratify the selected architect. The selected architect came from that Public Safety Board commission. I think 3 of you from this commission sit on that. That was passed unanimously, their selection, and sent to the Board of Selectmen for selection, for ratification, and for my authorization to sign a contract. Silver and Petrocelli, I think, is the name of the firm. I might be butchering the Italian
that's
name there, but
correct. Well done.
Rico Petrocelli was selected. You'll be pleased to know, being the Board of Finance, they were the low bidder, so we weren't only looking at price, we were looking at qualifications, experience. We checked references, etc. They've done this type of work before. They also came in significantly lower than the second bidder. So we were pleased that, and they're a local firm. So I think there's some of the savings built in there is the fact that there's not a lot of travel time for their architects to come back and forth on a daily basis while this is being built out. This will take a while to engineer and then build out. They're talking about 20 or 25 weeks for the engineering part to get the drafts all done, and then the bidding for the builder, etc. We're talking about another year before the police are in the building. So we have some issues internally about who's going to pay for that. Who's going to pay for that propane this winter, because it's not in anybody's budget. And who's paying for the electric bill right now, because it's not in anyone's budget. And we'll be bringing that to you at some point as well. We don't know if
the rent money.
I'm sorry?
We could use the rent money. We had to pay for the other
The
building.
Board of Ed's rent, are they gone, right?
No, the dollar.
Oh,
It was a
oh.
bad joke. Bad
Yeah,
joke.
okay. I get it.
funny.
So there is discussion that it's still a building project, therefore the money should come out of the building funds that we set aside. There's other discussion about contingency, and we'll come up with a plan that's reasonable and takes everything into account and bring it to you. And
So for the year, what kind of money are we talking about? We're talking about 50,000? We're talking.
I got to check on that.
The electric's about 24.
Yeah.
24,000 for the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
It's a couple
electric,
thousand a
heating, and
month.
everything else, 50
Yeah.
grand, somewhere not going to rough order of 50.
Yeah. It's not overwhelming, but we were hoping to make this a quicker, maybe it might be naive or whatever, but nobody's taking credit for the building yet. It's not in anyone's budget, and it will be. Of course, we'll be saving money. This is the transition year. This happens, and then there'll be the savings of shutting down these other buildings. We've had 4 qualified people in my office begging, asking, inquiring about the police building on Main Street for legitimate, I want in. I want in on it. So I think, we have a plan, and I'll be meeting with Dominion soon about the transferring, and in the bonding package, there is money for brownfield grants up at the state level. So we've informed them. They've already toured the property. The DECD people and the DEP people know that we're very interested. They know about it. They like our program, as we've mentioned before, and we're hoping to get that property cleaned up. When the police move out, we'll start cleaning it up and then turn that into an economic development on Main Street.
So the decision's made if we could get like a $50,000 deposit, it'd work out, right?
Oh, it's probably, the timing's probably bad on that. I know if this was business, brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? If this is a private sector business, it's exactly what we would do. We'd say, well, yeah, you can put a down payment down on that, and we can use that 50 to pay for the heat, but probably different. Any questions? Obviously, our Parks and Rec and our Public Works, they're fixing all the streets. They do this now because they try to get the streets done before the school buses start rolling again and all that. The Lovers Lane Heritage Bridge, the bridge between Lovers Lane and Heritage, that will start being worked on Labor Day. That's going to interrupt emergency services. That's going to interrupt school bus routes. So we're working to get around that. So, and you're going to talk about this, okay?
All right, if that's it, please
Yes.
talk to our Director of Finance. Thank you.
So I just distributed an estimated fund balance calculation, and I'm using as of today's date. So I start off with the 7/1/2018 fund balance of 4.7 million. The projected revenue, so it's currently at 72,589,000, and the footnote shows that it's based on, I looked at 7/30/19 as of today, and I've also added a few receivables that have not been booked in the system yet that I know are coming. A little over 20,000 for DUI grants, a 278, let's say $279,000 tuition payment that's due to us from Salem. And I billed the town of Waterford for its share of the animal control officer at $55,923. In addition to that, I'm also, the projected expenditures, if you are at $72.1 million, and so if you look at the calculation in the little box, it shows the 6/30/19 expended, then in addition to that, the Board of Ed will spend another $948,000, and we have a little over $141,000 remaining in town encumbrances, and then I added another $100,000 for town other, just in the event, let's say, for example, which I would certainly hope and expect not, that someone's going to come to me with a bill for last fiscal year without having a PO at this time, but just in the event, to be a little on the conservative side. Then I also included carryover amounts, and the carryover amounts are itemized in the bottom corner. Of course, it'll exclude the $5,000 that the board did not act on this evening. So then you come up with the estimated expenditures, the budget amount, so there's, shows about $330,000. Then in addition to that, when looking at the revenues for 6/30/19, we didn't, I'm saying that we did not need to use the applied fund balance, so I'm adding that back in, but then I'm also subtracting out the applied use of fund balance for the 19-20 budget, which is $175,000. So we're looking at an increase in our fund balance of a little over $900,000, which would be 5.7 million, and that would be 7.7% of the 19-20 budget. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I just think if this is your report card for last year, you did good. I mean, we as a group did good, I think. I think that's the final grade. Any questions about the fund balance sheet that we have? Thank you. Oh.
One quick question. So there is a plan in place, correct, to get us to the target number?
Okay, so, yes, so what we did for 1920, instead of applying 675,000, we reduced that by $500,000 to 175. And then in the 2021 budget, the plan would be for us to actually budget $375,000 to include that in the budget. And then for several years thereafter, I believe that amount was increased to $500,000. So to try to, work at growing our fund balance so that we can work at achieving the 15% that is recommended for, a municipality of our size.
And how many years would it take for us to get there, given those projections? How
I
many years
have-
would it take to get to 15%, for example?
I have like 10 years.
10 years.
It's a
And
10 year.
And that's if we actually do return that amount every year.
Well, that's
would
if
take
we,
10.
if we budget for it. But then, as we're going along, we may have greater than expected operating results that would help to grow the fund balance at a greater rate than we're using in our projections.
Right, so that's very conservative just by looking at that one number, not taking into consider potential economic growth or.
Yeah, I mean, and like, for example, if we look at 6/30/19, we had several revenues that our estimates were on the good side of conservative. I mean, there are some that came in a little under, but I think when I was looking at the report in general, I noted that we had more on the plus side than on the negative side. So that was nice to see. So, and then the town clerk came to tell me today that I think it was $32,000 in conveyance taxes. One of the assisted living buildings changed hands.
Oh, new ownership?
Yes, and
Wow.
then, I mean, actually, last fiscal year, the shopping center that Tri-Town is located at changed hands. It seems like every fiscal year we've been having a large commercial property change hands, so that's been good for the conveyance revenues.
Yeah.
Do we keep 100% of that? I don't recall, or does the state get a cut of that? Oh, it's all ours, the
Well,
conveyance?
we get our share and they get their share, so,
32 was our share, you think?
oh, right, exactly, that.
The conveyance tax that they have to pay when they sell. Yeah,
that
that all
was our
comes to us.
part.
There's the state doesn't get a piece of that, right?
Yeah,
I
they
don't
do.
believe
It's
so.
a larger.
They do.
We got 32, but it's a larger number.
Oh, so they could've got, say, 60, and we got 30?
I think theirs goes
Something, yeah.
directly to them. I'm not,
It's a small portion.
It's a
I
small
believe theirs
portion.
goes directly to them. I can check on that.
I'm just
I don't
curious,
know
I
off the
I
top of
can
my
look it
head.
up too.
But-
I'm just
but-
curious, don't
That's
worry
not
about
familiar
it.
there was a split,
Yeah.
because all the fees downstairs are split, the buildings and the zonings,
Mhm.
the dog licenses.
Mhm.
So there was-
Because actually, when I see the daily
The zoning bill I
receipt
paid
sheets,
100% went to the state.
Conveyance
Yeah.
I put a shed on my lot,
Yeah, it's like-
$80
it's
and the whole
crazy.
thing went to the state.
Do you know what it is, Jason?
so when I look at the daily cash sheets for the clerk, when I see big numbers, I always call to ask what sold.
Okay.
And so then you had the other normal expenditure reports, which is a draft at this point. It changes every week when we do our accounts payable batches, because we're paying on, encumbrances that we had as of 6/30/19. The revenues, the changes I noted in the calculation for estimated fund balance. There might be a few other smaller receivables that will come in over the next 40 days or so that, would make a difference. And there might be some tax adjustments that we need to do that may impact those numbers as well. And that's where you'll see the changes.
Okay, and we're gonna get a closeout for this year in September when we talk about.
Yeah, I think that would be reasonable. And then, I don't know if you just look, and just see any of the larger, the revenues and, highlighted revenues and expenses for the month.
Okay. Any other questions? Did you have anything else that you wanted to present besides that?
No, I'll just, I have notes that for our next meeting, I guess the board members all received a proposal that Ann had prepared for a change to the bylaws. And then we'll also talk about the public safety overtime analysis that I had provided at a previous meeting. I'll just update those because I don't think they were updated through June. And then, of course, we'll talk about the CNRE fund.
Okay.
The only change to the bylaws was with regard to mentoring newcomers?
Yeah, I just
That was it, right?
started small. I just figured we're, I think overall the bylaws are in reasonably good shape. I just thought that with an election year coming too, it may be a good time to think about that topic of mentoring, But, yeah, there's some other areas,
I think generally speaking, a new document like that, you wanna let sit and kind of grow for a bit before you start tweaking it. I think we'd wanna wait a couple of years before there's any changes to it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you see it that way, Bill.
We have a plan to have a newcomers seminar, if you will, at the town level for all members of commissions. It might be new, but also
Right.
like a refresher course. We'll bring the attorneys in for FOI issues. God
Yeah.
knows
That's
we
great.
had to learn quickly on that one.
Mhm.
It'd be good. And then Robert's rules, maybe a quick, because listen, you're new on a board or commission, you're volunteering for the first time. How does this all work?
Yeah.
Can I make a motion? Can I add something to an agenda? We'll talk very briefly on it. We don't have to spend a lot of time and money, but you might want to segue if you do want to create some kind of a training program or
It's very simple.
discussion.
It was very simply.
For somebody
discussion.
that's been on almost every board in town, each board has got different dynamics,
Yes.
different
Mhm.
rules,
Yes.
different statutes, different.
Yeah.
So yes, knowing the Robert rules,
I ain't bringing
knowing
it.
how,
Definitely helps.
yeah.
Because we're all new ones.
Yeah.
We're all.
It's nice to have somebody that
Yeah.
kinda
Yeah.
talks
We're
to
gonna
you
do
when you
that.
first come in.
So, for that amendment, we'll need to discuss, but then there has to be a full board, like everyone present, to actually approve or to take the vote to amend, according to the current bylaws.
Everybody has to be present?
Yes, it's all voting members of the board. You can discuss it at let's say you discuss it at the August meeting, and we don't have all 6 members, you could put that vote off till September. However, you have to make sure that at that September meeting, you've got,
Oh my goodness.
the full voting.
And no, it has to be
board.
proposed at one meeting and it has to be voted on at another meeting.
Well, you could definitely do it all in the August meeting if everyone is present, but the key is if you're going to vote on it, and my sense was try to vote on it so that if you do like it and want to approve it, it's in place, by election time, so that's the whole point of it,
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be here for the August meeting, so.
Okay, so we'll have to try to pick a time.
Yeah.
You could call in your vote.
I could.
Oh boy.
I'll have to check,
I
the
think I'll be
rules
in
on-
Israel, so I'm not quite sure what the time zone where it's gonna, how it's gonna work,
But
Well,
one,
Ken, that is a good question. Can we do an electronic vote?
I think we actually can.
I think we
Yeah,
can.
we
We
can.
allow it.
Yeah, we can. One point about the bylaws, I don't see anything that's pressing otherwise, like just reading through those bylaws. They cover the